everybody. Welcome to today's video. Nice to see you. In my last video we talked about the Barry Harris 6th diminished scale, and we did it on major 6th and minor 6th. What we did, we took those two chords, a major 6th and a minor 6th, played their root position in 3 inversions, and then tied all those chord shapes together with one diminished shape. And that's how we came up with the diminished scale that's derived from Barry Harris. Now, we did it with only 3 notes, so I know a lot of you are going to ask, how can you play a 6th chord with 3 notes? Well, you can't. So the obvious answer is you can't. But we're going to use them as 6th chords in the same fashion, and every shape will be missing a chord tone, but they'll still sound and they'll still work fine. So what we're striving to do here is sound like the guys, a lot of the guys that play gypsy jazz, and also a lot of the fellows that play in the big band use these 3-note grips, inversions, shapes, whatever you want to call them, on strings 6, 4, and 3 to provide some really nice foundation, rhythm, bottom sound, and that's what we're going to do. If you haven't watched the first video, you might want to click the link and go and watch it. I also have the paperwork that you can download for free that shows the scale in action, as we did it in the first video. So we'll recap here for just a second, and then we're going to get into these 7 unique shapes, or 7 shapes that we can play many chords from the 5 most common chord types. So to recap, let's go back to our major 6th. We had the root position, major 6th, like this. Then the first inversion, which is really just G over B. There's no 6th, but we're going to use it as a G 6th. Okay, so that's G over B, then G 6th over D. Now remember, these are strings 6, 4, and 3 only. And then the third inversion is this, at the 12th fret. We'll call that G 6th over E. So there's our 4 shapes: root position, G over B, G6 over D, and we're going to call this G6 over E. Then we tied those in with a diminished chord, playing the rest of the steps of the scale. We played a G scale, so we played the G scale, but it has an added sharp 5 in it, so it's an 8-tone scale. So it goes G, A, B, C, D, D sharp, E, F sharp, then G, and it sounded like this. G 6th, second step, A diminished, and this diminished is one of the shapes we're going to talk about today. Then it went to G over B, then C diminished, and these diminished shapes are always the same fingering, same shape. Okay, that's C diminished. Then we have G 6th over D, and now our D sharp, and it's D sharp diminished. Then G 6th over E, F sharp diminished, and then G 6th. Now we do the same thing with the minor. I'm not going to play through that. That's in the other video. Just take a look at the link below. Like I said, if you need that paperwork, download it for free. Same thing here. I have paperwork on what we're going to discuss today. It'll be uploaded to Google Drive, and it's a free download for you. So, to kind of summarize what we did in the first video, with the G major 6, we had 4 shapes. If you add in the diminished shape, that was 5 shapes. Then when we did the minor 6th diminished scale, we did the same process, only we made the chords minor 6th instead of a major 6th. The diminished shape was exactly the same. Now, what you found out in the minor shape was that there was only one shape that was new. It was unique to the minor shape. The other 3 minor shapes were used or going to be used in other use, or going to have other uses, is what I'm trying to say. Okay, so with those 6 shapes I'm going to tell you about, we'll add 1 shape from the dominant family. We're going to go through our dominant chords now. And remember, the basic, or the big 3 families of chords are major, minor, and dominant. A lot of players only think, is a chord major, is it minor, or is it dominant? And I'm kind of one of those that fall into that line of thinking. So there'll be 1 shape from the dominant family that we'll go through right now, and that'll give us, when we summarize everything, 7 shapes that we can use to play many chords from the 5 most common chord types. So let's go through the dominant chords now. We'll start on G7, root position. Okay, looks like that. And I think the if you look at the top of the screen, I got the fingerings there. So there's the root position, G7. Then here is a familiar shape that we've used before. This is just G over B. So in other words, there's no seventh in the shape, but it's okay. It's going to sound. It's going to work for us. Okay. So that's our first inversion. Then our second inversion is going to be this. It'll be G7 over D. Okay. And then our third inversion will be up here in the 12th position, and it'll look like this. So those positions will be G7, root position, G over B with no seventh, but it'll function. Sorry, then G over D, G7 over D, and this will be G7 over F, which is the third inversion. Now I know I'm going kind of quickly, and if you don't understand all the music theory, it's not quite so important. It's just that you can hear these sounds and put them to use, make music out of them. That's the bottom line of what we're trying to do. So now we've gone through the major sixth and its inversions, the minor sixth and their inversions, now the dominant and their inversions. That's 16 individual chords that we played, but we didn't use 16 shapes. We really only used 7 shapes, okay, to accomplish those 16. Remember, like I said, there's only 3 big families of chords: major, minor, and dominant. Now, you're wondering, like, well, how are we going to play all these 5 chord families, or a majority of chords from these chord families, with only those 7 shapes? Well, here's the dirty little secret. These shapes have multiple uses. Each shape has a couple uses, in some cases 4 uses. And to start off with, the simplest thing is that every major chord has a relative minor. So if it's a G chord, it will sometimes and many times function as its relative minor, which is E minor. Or if it was C major, the relative minor would be A minor. If it's B flat major, the relative minor would be G minor. So that's a good relationship to know, because it's very popular in all forms of music. So the major-minor relationship, so you're going to get 2 uses. Now, the minor sixth is another strange animal. This is a wonderful chord, and I want to go back step here just a second. Back in the day, way back, probably in the 20s and 30s, before the major 7 became the 1 chord, so to speak, in our modern harmony, the 6th chord was a lot of times used as a tonic chord. A minor 6th and a major 6th, either one, could be used as a tonic chord. Not so much today as it used to be, but in gypsy jazz there's a lot of minor 6th action, and you need to know minor 6th and that sound to play gypsy jazz. Okay, I want to correct one thing that I said there a second ago. These 7 shapes that we're going to look at all have multiple uses, except for one. The root position dominant chord only has 1 use, and that'll be as a dominant chord. Now let's go back to the minor 6th chord that I was speaking about, and what a strange and wonderful animal chord this is. It has so many uses. A minor 6th, for example, D minor 6 is also B minor 7 flat 5. It's also G9 without a root. It's also D flat flat 9, D flat flat 5 flat 9. It's got like 4 uses. Now 3 of those uses are very common. The 4th use is used in jazz quite a bit, but the other 3 uses are fairly common. So this is how you can have a shape, even though it's a 3-note grip, have 3 and 4 uses, in some cases 5 uses maybe. It just depends on your ear, how you hear things, and how you can work it in. But that's what we're going to look at. So now, let's just go through. We'll start with the major 6th and just talk about, first of all, the relative major minor. Okay, this is G 6th in the root position. Okay, there's no 5th in this chord, but it still functions. But this chord could also be used as an E minor. I'll play E minor, and I'll play this G6. Here's E minor up here, E minor 7. Okay. So that's the relative major-minor relationship we were talking about. If it's a major, G major's relative minor is E minor. So that means that this one, the first inversion of G, what we're calling G sixth, we said before this is just GBD, it's just a triad. But it'll work as E minor as well. You can hear it, okay? So that means theoretically that all the G-type chords, the G major type chords, even though we're calling them G6, should function as E minor. Now again, it depends on your ear because there's always a tone missing in the shape because we're only using 3 notes in our grips instead of 4. So some will sound kind of foreign to your ears until you get used to them. All right. Now the second or the first inversion of the G6 was this. Like I said, that can function as E minor as well. And then the next one, the G over D, this one's very cool because it functions as a G6, but it also functions like an E7. If I put an E with it, if I go, okay, I just did a little chord movement, descending the bottom 2 notes and keeping this note constant on the 3rd string. So you hear that all the time in fingerstyle guitar like this. All right, so there's a shape that has 2 functions. Now I'm not going to go into every function. It's way too much to digest. I'm still working it out myself. So root position, W's, this is W's, W's at least, and then our 3rd inversion, this is the E minor shape. This has, or the G6 over E, it's also functions as E minor. Now there's no 3rd in this chord, so it can function as G6th, G minor 6th, E minor 7. It could function, if you put a C on the bottom, as a C major 9. So there's about 3 or 4 uses right there. Way cool. Now if you go to the first shape, the G minor in root position, that's also functioning as a C7 without a root. If I put a C with it, you can hear it. Okay? So there's a double use. The G minor 6th over D, which was this, G minor root position, first inversion G minor over B flat, well, that's going to function as B flat 6th. Put a B flat on top, and you've got a B flat 6th. So that's a double use. The G minor over D, G minor 6th over D, which was this. I don't remember what that functions as, to be honest with you right now. Maybe it's unique. It's a unique shape. It's one of the 2 unique shapes. The other one was the root position dominant chord. So this one only has, I guess, the 1 use. And then finally, am I done? I have to look. I got my notes over here. Yeah, I think we're really done. So now, this is really getting to be a cloudy mess, isn't it? I understand. But if you go to the link below and download the paperwork, it's all going to get straightened out. I'll show you what I mean. Here are the 7 shapes. I don't know if they'll show up very well, but there are the 7 unique shapes. I will also have the major 6th and the minor 6th and the dominant and their inversions there for download. I'll also have a paper that tells you what I'm considering to be at least a minimum of chords you can play. A major 6th, a major 7, a minor 6, minor 7 flat 5, a dominant chord, a diminished chord, and a major with a flat 5. That's 10 different chords right there. And there's another one I just played which was a major 9 I just played a minute ago. So there's at least 10 different chords from the 5 families that you can play. All right, so it's very, very crazy. Now I'm going to finish up by just trying to put this into use a little bit, like I did in the beginning of the video, but go slow and break it down for you. Let's say we have a song. Okay, we'll take the song that I did in the beginning of the video, the little instrumental part. That was the chords to Sweet Georgia Brown. Now those chords mostly just cycle, and you players that understand the cycle will know what I'm talking about. But the first chord is an E, and it's 4 bars long. So I played this inversion of our E7 here in the 7th or 6th position, and I just moved it back a half step and then back. And then I came up here to the next inversion, and then back down here. So that's just 2 shapes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4. And then on the last 2 beats, I hit a B flat, and I played A. Now A for 4 bars. And it was probably like so it was A7, back a half step, then the next inversion of A, diminished, diminished, back to A7. So that sounds like, sorry, like this. Inversion, diminished, diminished, inversion. Then I probably hit a passing tone for the D7, which is next, and then same thing here, D7, moving back a half step to the next inversion of D7, which is, this is all in your chart. And then when it goes to G now, I played I played a G7, A flat diminished, A diminished, B flat diminished, inversion of G, diminished, A diminished, back to G. Okay, so far we have this: E, passing tone, B flat to A, diminished, A, passing tone, E flat, back to D, inversion, D, G, diminished, diminished, G, diminished, G. It's G7. Now it starts over, E7, A7, passing chord's not necessary, but here I'm going A flat, A, B flat, just to get movement. Okay, now we've got E minor, using this inversion, and then B7, E minor, B7, and then I played G, and just moved these 2 fingers back. That's like playing G flat. Then that's like playing E7, and then A, D7, G6. Now I know out of context it's a little weird, but if you fool with these things, you'll get a lot of mileage out of these 3-note grips. And if you watch the Gypsy Jazz guys and some of the big band guys, you're going to see that's what they're doing a lot of times. And they'll function even though there's only 3 notes in the chord, and we're using them in the context of a 4-note chord, but they'll function just fine, and they'll give you some good bottom end. I've heard a lot of other players play them in other styles too. It's just not Gypsy Jazz and big band. So thanks for watching. I hope you got something out of this video. It was a tough one to put together because there's a lot of information, but I had fun making it. And if you have any comments or questions, please leave them in the comment section below, and go to the link to go to a Google Drive and download the paperwork. It's free of charge. And please like the video and subscribe. And we'll see you next time with some more information. All right. Bye-bye.